So I can have 2 chains?
Yeah, so
why
you
don't
can
you
have 2
just
chains.
call me 2 Chains? Like, let's get the middleman.
That's true. And like when we call you 2 Chains, people are like, why calling it 2 Chains? It's 1 chain. It's like, don't fucking ask. That's not how a nickname
Don't worry
fucking
about
works.
it. The only answer is don't worry about it.
So, there's reasons why people don't call me A-Train, I'm one of them to call me A-Train.
Did you try? Did you try to get people to call you A-Train?
I've never made an effort, but then one person did call me A-Train. I was like, I want this to be a thing now. And it was just him. He wasn't a part of any wider friend group. So it was like an eddy. It was like a weird eddy of nicknamesness. And it went away as quickly as it began.
I'm sad that we're just now learning about this.
So am I. You could have saved us literal years of explaining why we call you Janine.
No, but that's how a nickname works.
Welcome to Podlander, Drunkcast, and Outlander podcast. I'm Allison.
I'm Julie.
That's Janine.
Not A-Train.
That's A-Train.
Oh, it's A-Train now, but
oh, that's A-Train. That's A-Train. Yeah, let's open the thing.
Oh yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah, well, I started recording when you were talking about magnet chains, because what was I going to do? Not capture that sweet content?
I totally hear you.
Guys, you know what it's been? A while.
Oh.
It's been a while since we've done. I mean, obviously we have done episodes of Podlander, Drunkcast, and Outlander podcast, but it's been a while since we watched a proper Outlander episode.
Yes,
no, we're coming back to our original thing.
Our
It's
roots.
Our roots.
Mm-hmm. Jane Austen, who?
Our roots. Our roots are really prominent.
What?
Not
You're
like
fired.
Our roof.
I'm never calling you A-Train again.
It's
never
fine.
calling you A-Train.
Reason
again.
why no one ever respects my desires of nicknames, because I can't fucking hold up my end of the bargain of being cool.
I want to put a challenge out there to the Drunkcast listeners of the world. If you spot Janine in the wild, please call him Janine and not A-Train. Call him Janine. Because this way he'll be able to know exactly where it is that you know him from. It'll be less confusing.
Oh my god.
Call him Janine. However, if you spot Neil Starboard out in the wild, if you want to really freak him out, walk up to him and call him Big Bacon.
Here's the thing, though. That would not freak him out at all. He would be like, finally.
Well, sure, but wouldn't he be wondering, like...
How did they get that? Oh, no, I predict that he would 100% guess this podcast.
Oh, he would be like, oh, they told the podcast listeners to call me Big Bacon?
Actually, his response would be, and I know this to be true because he's been saying it all the time the past few days, is, oh, those coats.
He really, I can vouch for that. He really has latched onto that as a
He
as a
loves
bit.
that phrase, yes.
That's funny.
It's good. Those coats. We saw some of those coats in this episode.
Yes, we did.
That's about time.
Which,
Those
speaking
customs-
of, you know what? Let's get into it. Let's try to start this most recent era of Outlander off on the right foot and attempt to get out an episode that is shorter than the episode of television we just watched.
It won't be hard because that episode was fucking 200 minutes long.
It was long. It was long.
That was 200 minutes?
It wasn't
That's
200
an exaggeration.
Minutes. It was
But
80 minutes long. It was an hour and 20 minutes.
They're all going to be long. They're all longer episodes.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, because part of the deal with this season is because of COVID, they reduced the episode order, but the episodes are longer.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
And they've talked a lot about the density of the storytelling this season, which I think is reflected in this episode, which
Agreed.
I have a lot of positive things to say about.
Me too.
I've got some quibbles, but to the 3 out of 5s out there who think you don't like the show, we get it. I want to assure you, I think that this is a good episode.
I agree.
It is good. It is. And this isn't Allison, the Outlander fan, saying this. This is the professional television critic saying it was very well put together. It was a really good classic first episode of a season of a show that's been on for a while. You are reintroducing the characters that we know and love and the setting and sort of reminding everybody where we left off. But really, the most important thing is planting the seeds for everything that's going to come in the next arc. So we're remembering where people were when we left them and meeting new people and seeing how those things all tie together. And that's the number one assignment with any premiere. And this excels at that. Excels. It's really surprisingly unshowboaty for a Matthew B. Roberts episode.
Hey-o.
Couldn't not get a little dig in there, I guess.
Well, gotta always have a little dick.
But it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Julie, was that your vibe? Your
I
take
liked
too?
it. Yeah. In fact, my last note was good episode.
Yeah.
And then I made sure to write down the director of this episode. It was Kate Cheeseman, by the way. From one great last name person to another. Great last name Cheeseman.
Great last name, Cheeseman.
And then IMDb, I couldn't tell whether or not this was the case, but it said writer. It was D. Gabbs and Ronald Moore.
Oh, no. The episode said written for television by Matthew B. Roberts.
Got it. Well, you know what, Mustache? Good work, bud.
Yeah, truly, truly. I have some quibbles, and I'm sure we'll get into them. But one last thing that we need to say before we dive in properly, briefly, we are returning to the old school. We've gone back to our roots, which, according to A Train, are on fire.
Oh, no, I said
Or no, are
prominent.
really prominent. We're going back to our prominent roots.
Oh, that was such a good callback of how uncool I am. Thank you.
You're welcome. I
Always here for that.
live to please. And that Janine is not watching this season. Maybe we'll do the thing where we have him watch one. We pick the one and he watches with us. I think
Or the
that's probably pretty likely.
Or the sexy one, like the sexy bit. Because, like,
Well, there's sexy bits in this one.
There
Well,
are
then
sexy bits, but it's
you gotta
not.
choose wisely.
It's not like old school sexy, and we'll get into it.
I bet
Yeah,
it's like
we'll get
they're-
into it.
they're
Just like
older.
they did.
Yeah.
Giggity.
Hey, yo! So Janine doesn't know what's coming.
No, all I know now is it's 80 minutes long.
Yep. So
And Mustache did okay. It sounds like
Julie,
he took
if-
the time in COVID to reflect on himself and maybe get a little better.
I mean, let's not get
count
our
on
hopes
it,
up.
bud. Yeah, this is only episode 1.
It's episode 1. Before you take over, I'd like to set the scene for Janine, if I may. Okay. Lights up on Fraser's Ridge in flames. The
Jesus.
entire forest of the eastern seaboard is burning to the ground. And out of the ash arises a curiously frizzy-haired, white-gowned, wearing Empress of Destruction. And Katrina Bell floats in the air, and she says, "All will love me and despair." And then there's a musical number.
I kind of wish that's what I just watched.
Like, I just woke up from a nap, and so,
Yeah.
like, that all feels real
I was
to me.
wondering at what point you were gonna think that I was full of shit. But this being Outlander, I'm guessing it was longer than it needed to be.
Well, the moment
Was it the musical number or was it the Lord of the Rings reference?
It was the Lord of the Rings because
'Kay.
I'm falling into a Lord of the Rings phase right now. So, like,
Naturally.
I was right there.
That obviously is not what happens. However, Julie, why don't you take us away? Get us started. Well, bring us into, oh my God, Outlander Season 6.
Outlander Season 6, Episode 1, Echoes. Echoes. So I got my notebook. I need everyone here to know that I had to use the actual back. The FedEx notebook is done.
Oh, wow.
Oh my
Front
God,
to
the end
back.
of an era.
Filled with bullshit notes
Oh, my
about
God.
cultural touchstones. But here we
Oh,
go.
wow. We're going to save this, right? That belongs in an Outlander museum.
Well, I keep all the notebooks of all my notes because one day I'm going to read them and be like, God damn, I'm funny. You know?
Yeah.
You know? Okay, so thanks for the flashback because they opened up with a little bit of like a teaser reminder.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, you know what? It has been 2 years. Thank you. Thank you,
Well,
Outlander.
it was
Thank you.
essentially like a previously on Outlander that they turned into like an opening monologue. Like it had, I've never owned a vase energy, but it was, here's everybody you remember. Although
And some
I will
that you forgot.
and some that you forgot. I will say, you can't tease Coinface and Pamplemousse and then not give us either. That was the unkindest cut. I get that.
The Were they reminding you of these two people that were not
They
in the
were reminding
episode?
you of Murtaugh's death.
Yeah, that's
And-
mean.
And I know, I didn't need to see that again. Speaking
Yeah.
of, let's put that as the first thing on the list of things I didn't need to see again. There are a couple of in this episode, a couple of those. 2, Lord John, wasn't it just his face and like the voiceover? Like it wasn't even him in a scene with anyone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, at least have Jamie there in the off chance that Lord John gets to give the sad love look. Right?
Yeah.
But nothing. Anyway, Patty. So thank you for the reminder of plot points, major deaths, and who the hell is in this show. Right. So that's how it
Yes.
started.
Very good.
By the way, the doctor's name on the kit is D. Rawlings. It's Dr. Rawlings. Remember, we were trying to remember that in Dudelander, the
Yeah.
name of the doctor she wrote under? So
Rawlings.
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 And at the end of this monologue, it's Claire delivering the monologue about
As you do.
echoes and dreams and all sorts of stuff. But the final line I loved, which was, memory must be the devil. Because the future is... she starts out with the future is something good. I can't remember what it is. But the final line was, memory must be the devil. And so she's setting us up
Yep.
for a whole bunch of memory-related issues that all of our friends have.
Resonance. Yeah.
So cool. I'm reminded, and the door is open for me to walk into season 6.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we opened the actual, not really, but you think it is, the actual episode with a major flashback to when Jamie was at Ardsmuir Prison.
A lengthy flashback.
Very long.
Is this kind of a weird, like, Inception-like thing where it's like, here's a flashback, that's the first level dream. Here's the second level dream that's even deeper.
This flashback is very particularly on purpose to introduce you to Tom Christie, which we'll get into at length later.
Oh,
But-
yeah.
So it goes back to Jamie at Ardsmuir, and I did have a question about this. In
Great.
the timeline of the plot, so let's say current day in the plot is Fraser's Ridge, season 6. How long ago was Jamie's time at Ardsmuir?
I mean, a long time. I, off the top of my head, could not give you the exact number of years, but there are some
It's got to be close to, like, 25 years.
not quibbles. There are some interesting things to pick out in terms of the timeline of the show's storytelling here, because basically, to real briefly remind everybody, in the world of the show, Jamie hid out in the cave, right? He was the Dunbonnet, right? Hid out in the cave. He boned a lady who was very nice,
Yeah.
right? Baby Fergus lost his hand trying to hide
yeah.
him in the cave, right? Jenny gave him birth. It was a whole very traumatic, lots of feelings. So then he essentially gives himself up to protect the people of Lallybroch, so that they can claim this reward. And then he goes to Ardsmuir, right?
Jenny's I'll never forgive you. I was just reminded
Yes.
of it. God,
Yeah, brutal.
love her.
So he goes to Ardsmuir. We've seen some of his time at Ardsmuir, but most of what we've seen of his time at Ardsmuir is at the end, because that is when Lord John shows up. Lord John is the warden of Ardsmuir, takes over for somebody else. I need to go back. If we had worked out the schedule differently, I would have watched a specific season 3 episode before we recorded this, and I will do that before next week, or maybe we can do a Patreon only episode or something, to figure out whether or not it's the same actor. But basically, Ardsmuir is a shitty military post, so the people who are getting that post are being usually punished in some way. So for Lord John, I can't remember how strongly this is implied in the show, but in the books, it's that people have figured out that maybe he is homosexual.
That was implied. That was
Good.
talked about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he gets this shitty posting, and meets Jamie, and they play chess, and then there's the thing with the jewel that's hidden, and Jamie poops out the jewel and gives it to Lord John,
Oh,
right?
man, this show is
So,
bananas.
The Scotsman's gold, and there's
Yes.
a white
Oh,
witch
God.
and all that stuff, right? All of that happens. Lord John falls in love with Jamie. He puts his hand on Jamie's hand, not knowing about Jamie's traumatic history. Jamie is triggered, understandably. There's this rupture where he ends up taking a whipping for somebody else, and in the show it's speaking Gaelic, I think. However, in the book, it's about a scrap of tartan, which is repurposed here. So that's all stuff from the book, but in the book, it's a conflict between Jamie and Lord John, the roots of which are very different. Tom Christie is also in Ardmere prison, and they do have a conflict that's very similar. The stuff about the lodge is totally accurate. Mm-hmm. But the chronology quibble I have is Myrta should also have been in prison at this time, unless Jamie came to Ardmere before Myrta did.
Oh, yeah, because they added Murtaugh to Ardmere, right? Because wasn't he already dead in the books? I mean,
yes.
The show added him.
He dies at Culloden in the books.
Right.
Yes.
So...
and we see him be transported to the United States because Ardmere...
Indentured, yeah.
Yes, sends all of the Scottish prisoners to the U.S. except for Jamie, because Lord John does this one thing for Jamie, which he thinks is a kindness, and which ultimately is. But at the time, Jamie does not think of it as a kindness. Jamie thinks
sends
he's being
him to
held
Hellwater.
hostage. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Remember.
So I'm wondering where Myrta is. But we get this extended
I would
flashback.
not have even thought of that.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's. Oh, thanks, honey. Bring me another Mai Tai. Tom has brought me some coffee.
So it's really long.
It's a long
Janine.
flashback, and what it's establishing is that when Jamie shows up at Ardmere, there's a sort of power vacuum, and the Protestants are being essentially or some of the Scots are being led by Tom Christie, who is, according to Jamie, this is in the show, if they change their beliefs, they will not have to live in fear anymore, is the quote that he says. The current warden, not Lord John, of the prison, one of his predecessors, learns that Jamie has showed up and is like, oh, well, McDo, Black Jamie is here. Don't do anything to rouse the prisoners or there'll be trouble for you.
I had a note about that exact line, which was, how can I help but aggravate the men? Because it was like, don't aggravate the prisoners. How can I help but aggravate the men when I look like this?
Yeah, true.
I mean, he just walked in there and it's like, I'll follow him until I die, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
He can't help it.
Well, they
It's
obviously all respect him, and he is, as we've seen many, many times, a natural leader.
Yeah.
So there's this sort of unbelievable rift amongst the men, and they end up pounding on each other all of the time. It's incredibly contentious. There's one of the prisoners is obviously not well mentally, seems to think that he's Bonnie Prince douchebag.
Oh.
And Tom Christie, also a prisoner, is in the warden's good graces because he's quote unquote educated and he's not a heathen. He's not a Highlander. He's not Catholic. But the men who don't want to follow Tom Christie have no one to lead them. So Jamie is supposed to not rouse the men, but also they're miserable. And they're constantly having to do hard labor, and there's no food and blankets and whatever. It's a lot. And in this sort of vat of chaos is this one kindred spirit who had a wife that he loved a lot. And he and Jamie have a little bonding moment about their wives that they loved a lot.
Sam was really good in that scene.
He was really good in that scene. I have thoughts about Sam Heughan's developing strengths as an actor. And
he was good in this episode.
Yes, he was. But of course, the next day, this total doom face.
Yes,
total doom face.
Doom face McPound. It was
from the moment we see him. I was like, oh, he's gonna die.
Yep.
Oh no.
And he does.
He does.
There's another squabble and hard labor, and we've already learned from his conversation with Jamie that he is losing his sight. So he's like stumbling around, can't see where he's going, is obviously not fighting, but one of the other dudes picks up a rock and is like, gah! And just hits him on the head with it really hard, and he dies.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So Jamie is like, no,
fuck
we're
this.
done. Fuck this.
That's traumatic. Jesus Christ.
So, as they're looking at this dead Doomface. He was too pretty to live.
He was too pretty to live. And they had to put all that shit all over his face in the jail scene. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Too pretty.
Too pretty. The man who thinks that he is the prince is there and puts a piece of tartan on the body. Tartan, as one of the things that could potentially unite the men, is illegal. Totally illegal. So one of these 16-year-olds who's a soldier is like, who do I get to punish now? Great, let's do this. Let's injure some fellow human beings. Yeah. And Jamie naturally is like, oh.
It was mine.
It was mine. Right as Tom Christie points, as getting ready to point at this person who is out of his mind. Getting ready to point at him, and Jamie is like, yeah, that was me. And you see the seeds of this conflict, and that Tom Christie, it's not like he's a bad person, but his beliefs are obviously, although that's debatable on some things, on a lot of things, complicated character. Get used to him. He's going to be around the whole season. He's a very interesting character, and they cast a great actor, and I'm all here for it.
He was amazing.
He's great.
Yeah.
But you see that Tom Christie wants to be a natural leader of men, but he lacks the ability to inspire. He can inspire fear. He doesn't inspire other things. Devotion, respect, anything remotely positive. So he's getting ready to do what he thinks is justice and tell the truth because he's seeing things very black and white. The truth is the right thing. A lie is the wrong thing. Jamie sees a mentally ill person being whipped when he doesn't understand what's going on is a bad thing. So then lying is a good thing. And the reason I like this flashback so much is it is classic book Jamie. It's like that's
he's always got to get his ass beat.
But it's the stuff I love where he's weighing you can see him weighing the sort of tactics and strategies, but the question of what is right and what is wrong, he doesn't reflect on it at all. Right?
Yeah.
There is no question. He knows what is right and what is wrong. And we see a lot of that come through in this episode. He can balance his own personal feelings against the greater good, and then also identify complexities and struggles and places where they can come together and avoid conflict and places where conflict is necessary. And the way that he ends up resolving this conflict is that he goes to the warden, who he saw give a super secret handshake
Little
to Tom
thumb wiggle.
Christie.
Little thumb wiggle.
Thumb wiggle.
I'm like fucking Mason shit. Of course I was proven correct.
So he says, I saw your little secret handshake. So why don't you make me a Mason, and then I'll start a lodge in Arsmere Prison, because then talking about politics and religion will be against the rules, and they'll all be brothers. And so that's what he does, and that's how they all fucking survive Arsmere.
Wow.
Including Tom Christie, who would definitely have gotten himself fucking killed.
Wow.
Am I wrong? That man would be
it's true.
dead.
Yes.
He would have gotten himself killed. So then we see Tom Christie marching up the road to Fraser's Ridge. What could possibly go wrong? Cue new theme song.
Yep. And then you're like, wait, the episode hasn't already started?
It's a really, really good
really long,
flashback.
Wow.
It's long, but I'm
Lots of
really
stuff.
glad they took the time. I really am. There are places I think this episode could have been trimmed, but that's not one of them. I wouldn't have taken out a single minute.
It shows how much they're going to invest in this character and this actor. By the way, the guy is so good that I fucking wrote his name down, which
Good.
you know I never do that. I don't know why. Mark Lewis Jones. Welcome.
Killed it.
Welcome acting excellence. I enjoy seeing you.
Yeah.
Come on in.
He's get used to praising him. He's going to be good. If he's that good in this episode, he's going to be great.
He
And
gives me Murtaugh vibes a little bit.
Yes.
Like
yeah.
his demeanor and just kind of
curmudgeonly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dad energy a little bit, but like crotchety.
Yes, crotchety. And he
yeah, he's good.
it's a fascinating the character is fascinating as a counterpoint to Jamie, because you get to look at these people and see they aspire to many of the same things, and they go
Yeah.
about them differently because of some of their fundamental beliefs. But a lot of the things that are shitty about Tom Christie are things that were shitty about baby Jamie, right? Like, he talks about beating his children. And that, you know what? Beating your children is bad. It is bad. However, it's more complicated at that time because of what people were taught about parenting and about religion, and that doesn't mean it's good. It's still bad, because you should know in your gut that it's wrong. The way that Jamie deep down knows in his gut that it's wrong when he's beating Claire, even though he's also sort of turned on by it. I don't love that episode.
Yeah, no, that episode.
But complicated. The fact that Tom Christie beats his children means he has something in common with the vast majority of parents in the entire world at this point in history. So,
I can't wait to get to his kids.
yes.
I have so many questions.
Let's do it. Let's talk
Okay.
about his kids.
All right, so the
Are
new
we
theme
skipping
song.
anything?
Not yet. We haven't even started the actual episode.
I love it when shows drop credits like well into the show. The best example ever is an episode of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, where almost all the way at the end, one character is summarizing the plot of the show to another character, and they end up speaking the theme song as dialogue, and then it goes Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and you see the title card, and there were like 5 minutes left in the episode. It's classic.
That's
Julie,
awesome.
go ahead.
Thank you. So let's get the episode going. We're at the Ridge.
Yeah, it's on fire. Claire's
Claire
Claire's
floating in
floating.
the sky.
But you know
Yeah.
what? Before we get to the Ridge, they got to let us know we're in America now. And
Yeah.
so there's a big bald eagle, first of all. This is the first frame of the thing. It's a fucking
Jesus.
bald eagle. I'm
What
like,
is this?
okay, America.
What is this, Peacemaker? Come on.
I'm like, come on, fine, whatever. We're in America, thanks to the eagle. And then fucking he shows up, you're right. So he marches up to Fraser's Ridge.
Claire and Jamie are gone, because we'll be brief about this, because Claire has to go check on Marsley, and Jamie is essentially not letting her just go wander through the woods by herself right now, which,
Probably smart.
yeah,
Probably
not a
smart.
good
I forgot
call.
the title card. When I was watching it, and I was like, oh man, I forgot all about this. I had to write it down real fast.
I don't remember what it was. What was it?
It was Claire making some medicine.
Oh yeah, Claire.
Yeah.
Claire is
We'll get
making.
there.
Claire's making ether.
We'll get
And
there.
that's where we start. Claire's laying on the bed. She looks like she's dead. And Jamie is like, oh my God, Claire, wake up. And then she's like, what? What is it? What's the big deal? Because
And she's like, oh my God, it worked. I was only out for 4 minutes. So bitch is making like
she's
anesthesia.
making anesthesia and
Oh,
testing it on
shit.
herself. Ooh, our first oh shit of the season.
Yes.
Talk about the fucking like cojones, man, for that. It's
It
like,
is
I'm gonna test this
dangerous.
drug out, and I'm gonna
Right
test it out
away.
myself.
Right
Fucking
away.
hell.
Right the fuck away. I was like, is she going to start dosing?
Oh my god.
I knew it.
I mean, you know,
I,
the good old days
didn't.
aren't really that good. So I
Yeah,
guess
no, I knew
makes
right
sense.
away. There were several.
didn't.
There were several things that happened in the episode that I like the little thumb handshake. I'm like, oh, he's gonna make him a Mason, and then 2 minutes later, it was the Mason.
Yeah.
The title card plus Claire being all blissed out on that bed. I was like, she's gonna start taking ether. So I guessed it from the beginning, but that doesn't make it any less compelling. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Is
So
Claire
they're gone.
dosing is my third note. And then I'm like, wait, Claire invented ether?
Claire does make ether in the books.
This bitch is on point.
Claire,
There's a reason they like put themselves in the middle of nowhere, right? She's like making active choices that this is the future.
This
in
episode
forward.
is full of that shit.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is a definite tension starting to raise up there about why the fuck doesn't everybody think she's a witch? Like, and there's a great scene between Claire and Brianna about that very idea. But
Okay.
yeah.
Nice.
it's very
All right.
good. Okay. So the big thing we get from this first scene is, first of all, Claire's invented ether. And then Mayor McDonald, one of the British dudes that's in charge of the territory, has asked Jamie to become the Indian agent, like a go-between for the British Army with the First Nations people of that area, right? And Jamie's like, no, bro. I'm out. I don't want to do it. I just want to fucking live my life on my beautiful land, which is now bustling and thriving. So piss off. I'm not going to do it. I paid my debt and don't call me colonel anymore. He actually says that. I'm not a colonel. Like, go away, please. That comes back with a vengeance. Oh, Mrs. Bug and Mr. Bug got a little bit more screen time this time. Do you think we're going to get more of them?
Yeah, I do. I'm very curious to know what the great pie placement war of 17 whatever year
it was so awesome.
It was very like classic passive aggressive shit. I was like,
exactly like family holiday shit where like mom puts something down, right, and then grandma comes in behind her and is like, absolutely not. Like
let's
that
move
shit.
this.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
I love
me too.
That shit.
Hot piss.
Richard Rankin's beard is majestic.
Very full.
His beard is lush.
Quarantine treated him well.
I wonder if he got one of
beard
those
looks
rollers.
Good.
He got one of those rollers to encourage growth. He's just a good looking dude though.
Hirsute.
Yeah. So Claire needs to go check on Marcelly because the baby's acting weird, and once again, Marcelly's pregnant as always.
Yeah.
Well, Marcelly was pregnant.
Right, we knew that.
Yeah, she was already when she got clocked in the face. Because remember, Marcelly murdering the dude? Do we remember Marcelly murdering the dude?
Yes.
I do remember that.
Yes. Yeah. That was pregnant Marcelly murdering a dude.
Well, those hormones really just fuck. And she would kill a bitch no matter what, so.
You hurt my mom. One of my favorite moments in the whole show. She's so good. So she's going to check on Marcelly.
First, Jamie loads up all the fucking 40 kids into the wagon and is like, let's go, kids. Granddad's taking you for a ride. And I was like, that wagon looks like the most fun shit. Like, you get to ask Grandpa Jamie all the crazy questions, right? And he's loving every minute of it, coming up with answers for it. And I'm like, I bet as a kid, I would have loved to fucking ride in Grandpa Jamie's wagon.
Come on, kids. Let's go light fireworks. Like, it's very...
Exactly. It's that energy. Come on, kids. Don't tell your mom. Like,
so, and amazing. They do this so that Marcelly can have a fucking minute.
Sure.
Because she needs a minute. Because she's doing all the housework.
A lot of work.
And all of the child rearing.
Too much work.
She's got a human being growing inside her, and she's got a mysterious bruise on her arm.
And I'm like, oh my God, is Fergus beating Marcelly? Because if he is, I simply cannot take it.
He's not charming enough to survive that.
Okay. So then this is when Tom
Christ.
Christie makes his entrance at Fraser's Ridge, and he starts by rapping on the most beautiful tempered glass window I've ever seen on a front door in my entire life, and I have had it up to here. It's ridiculous. I started counting the windows this time. 4,
I feel like maybe
7. That's 11 on 2 sides. So that means 22 motherfucking windows at the minimum in this house.
I feel like maybe we need signs that say Tom Christie was just a little bit right, because Tom gets his knickers in a twist a little bit in this episode because Jamie has this majestic house, but there's no church and there's no school. On the one hand, he's wrong. Build houses first. Build houses first. The people need to live somewhere where they won't die of exposure before they can build other things. On the other hand, we
did a
haven't
pottery
really
barn
seen
throw
any
up
of
in here?
these other houses, and some of this glass is etched, bitch. It's like etchings of leaves on the glass.
It's
on the
fucking
paned
ridiculous.
windows with the complex soldering holding the pieces of glass together. It's like beautiful work.
The first time they walk into an interior room in this episode, I was like, fuck me. Like, how did they get all that shit there to that house? The vases. The bowls, the carving out of the walls. It really is. It's like the windows are
I feel like
they're the clue, but
You know,
they're spending
it's
too
like,
much time on that house.
There's like Nancy Meyers energy where, and it doesn't make any sense because they have that beautiful scene that we already saw before the season dropped where Claire and Jamie are talking about what they're going to do with the Fisher folk, which these are the people that Tom Christie brought with him, Janine, are the Fisher folk. And Claire's like, oh, well, we'll figure it out. Mend and make do, but we're good at that. I'm like, are you good at mend and make do? Because you look like you're good at go to Target and walk out having spent $6,000. Like,
I feel like we only see one. We of course only see one side of the house, the facade of the front of the house. Partly because one might think that it's a production issue of like what's behind it. No, that's because the shanty town of all the people making is behind the house.
Hoover's Gulch.
That's why it's all a bunch of lean-tos with people making fucking windows.
Terrible.
it's a Hooverville.
Yes, it was a Hooverville joke. Thank you. Oh my God, I appreciate you. Cheers, LaCroix. I'm drinking a pamplemousse today.
Hey.
So Tom Christie has a point. But in this conversation, Roger's like, oh, well, I'm Mr. Fraser's son-in-law, so let's talk. And
because Jamie's gone, right?
Jamie's gone. Tom Christie mentions he's from Ardsmuir, and Roger, very understandably, is
correctly.
Like, I got this. I know exactly what Jamie would want me to do if any of the men from Ardsmuir showed up. Welcome to the Ridge. Let's get you a sandwich. And they make him very welcome. Because Roger doesn't know that there's exactly one person from Ardsmuir that maybe that shouldn't happen with. And even it still should have happened. But Roger, in the great history of Roger not knowing when he's really put his foot in it, this is yet another example.
A rich history.
A rich history. He does not realize the kettle of worms that he is opening. It's a lot.
We do find out an important point here that Christie was indentured to the United States, much like Murtaugh was, but Christie was indentured as a school teacher. So he's a teacher. He's educated, whatever. But he's also got some real religion issues.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a bummer. Like right away. You can tell it's a bummer. And it's bad. And then I wrote, great job, Roger. So it continues apace.
Keep winning, Roger.
When Jamie fucking gets there and sees him, it's hilarious. Great reaction by Sam Heughan. But he goes along with it because he did put out the pamphlet that's like, if you were at Ardsmuir, come to Fraser's Ridge. So he's standing by his word, and we know that that's how he do. So he brings him into the house and says, and this is my wife, and there is a thunderclap. And I'm like, okay, here it comes. This guy is going to be the one that starts fucking around with Claire being a witch. This is the guy.
Oh, fuck. Oh, no.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm just drinking my water.
Yeah.
Book knowledge. Can't say shit.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's like the thunderclap was just enough to where if you didn't catch it, it might just like subliminally flow through you. But I heard it and I'm like, this
But Julie,
is him.
here's the thing. The thing about thunder is
It
that
only
it only
happens
happens when it's raining.
Oh,
my
God.
God.
That was great. Tusk.
Sidebar, I will make it 5 seconds, I swear to God. Everybody knows Wordle. There's a new one. It's called Hurdle, and you listen to music and try to guess the song.
Oh, that's fun.
It was made for me and Allison. Anyway, I'm just letting you know that the first one was Dreams by Fleetwood Mac, and I got it in less than 1 second, so thanks.
She texted her little result to me like you do, and it was like Hurdle, and then the one little green box. And I was like, huh? And I click on it, and I saw what it was, and I was like, wow, Julie got it in one. I wonder what this could be. And I hit play, and it went boom, boom. And I was like, oh,
You're like,
okay.
oh.
No, I got this one too.
I thought Zach was trolling me. He was not. Anyway, Patty.
No. Anyway.
So, thunderclap after This Is My Wife is high drag. That was my note.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, he's going to be the one. And then this might have been low-key my favorite scene in the entire episode. It was pretty short. But Brianna was in Claire's surgery with her, and Claire was telling her about creating the ether, right? And they had this extended conversation about their responsibility vis-a-vis helping people live better lives versus what it means to be perceived as a witch.
Yeah.
Or like, they don't really say the witch part, but that's the thrust of the
The whole
conversation.
gayless aspect is probably like hovering right there.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like
And
remember the monkey
Claire's
vest?
gotten to the point now where she's like, I'm just trying to make people's lives better. And so I'm going to use my knowledge to do that. And Brianna's over there like, I want to build a suspension bridge over the pond. But if they watch me do it. So Bree is kind of torn about ideas that she has and designs that she has, and she wants to implement them, but she's also a little bit like it's gonna scare people.
Mom, I have a question. How would you feel if I invented serialized television?
I feel like, I mean, not to quibble too much on this issue, but I feel like engineering feats are different than medical feats. And like,
But if it's still a woman doing it,
that's fair. Still a woman in that time.
Still
You're
a woman.
Still getting fucked. Still
And
a
I
witch.
mean, engineering feats can also still involve heat, and anytime heat is involved, those could be the fires of hell.
That's true.
So one of the things that Claire says in the scene is you can tell them that the Romans had heated floors.
Brimstones. Yeah.
True, but also Rome fell.
Into the pits of hell. Into the pits of hell.
oh my God, that comes up a lot in this episode. We're not even. I don't know how we're gonna do this. Okay,
I don't
here
know.
we go.
I mean, we got, yeah.
That's the next is the sex scene. We
Oh.
do get a sex scene in this episode between Jamie and Claire, and
I
it's
mean,
pretty hot.
It's hot. It's short, but
Very
it's hot.
short, to the point, like grown person sex. But there's a moment that they share that I thought was really important while they were doing it, while they were riding the bone train. They looked at each other, and there was a moment of kind of shared pain, like sadness or something. I don't know. Am I alone in this? I think it felt like Claire kind of trying to release some of her trauma a little bit.
None of it's explicit. I mean, it's all explicit, but none of the subtext
Lots
is
of boob.
explicit.
Lots of boob,
boob.
Janine. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
Good.
it is. They do a really nice job of sort of. I did a little Insta Live with Amelia before and after. And one of the things that we were talking about after is that there have been a lot of people on this show who have played pretending to be all right.
Mm.
And most of them have done a fine job. But Katrina's doing the best job of all of them. She's really good. Claire seems like 99.9% normal.
Yes.
But but it's like slightly too normal. And you can tell she's freaking out everyone around her who knows her well. Marcelly's freaked out. Brianna's freaked out. Jamie's freaked out. Roger's freaked out. They're all freaked out. And she's just like, why? What? I'm fine. Everything's fine.
Did we forget the massive trauma you went through when you got
fiery cross.
Jesus
Yes.
fuck.
Yeah. She does a really,
You remember
really
when you
great
escaped
job.
into a 70s house because it was so horrible? That's not okay.
I actually do have a question
Jesus.
about, first of all, the costuming remains excellent.
Yes, top notch.
But in this scene where Jamie and Claire are talking to each other in the boudoir, this is the one we saw in the preview, right?
Yes.
Where
Oh,
he's
okay.
like, I think you're an angel or whatever.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was a very...
Would
I mean,
an
those,
angel do
those-
this?
Get freaky!
Oh,
Yeah.
damn.
But his shirt is so crisp and like freshly laundered. I'm like, who's doing laundry on the ridge? Never mind, it's Marcelly.
Shantytown.
This is a point in the books. Claire always tries to find a reason to not have to be one of the people that does laundry. She'll be like, oh, I have to go pick berries. And she'll just go because she hates doing laundry. So Mrs. Bug is always like, it's laundry day. What berries do you have to pick today, Claire? It's Claire hates laundry. It is canon.
But Jamie's linen is crisp.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it looks real nice.
That's because it's covered in cum.
He's a
It's
handsome,
standing
handsome man.
straight up.
Just where did they get that fucking wallpaper in that bedroom?
I don't know, but it's hot. It's good
It-
wallpaper.
It is like
Stately.
it was great. It's the only thing that could have distracted me from the two preternaturally hot people fucking on that bed was that incredible wallpaper, and it
great
did.
wallpaper. It's great
It distracted me because it was primo.
All right, let's talk about. I think maybe from here, the best idea is to kind of talk about the various threads that we follow.
Okay.
So we meet some important characters. Maybe we go through them one by one. So let's talk about the Christie kids because you've been chomping at the bit to talk about Malva and Alan.
Yeah, that's what happens right here is you meet all the people that Tom Christie brought with him.
Yeah.
And they're all like hanging out in the woods.
The
Fisher people. What does that even mean?
Is that a Jesus thing? He's a fisherman?
Maybe.
They're, I think, lowlanders, essentially.
Okay.
They're not hunters, they're fishermen.
Oh.
Okay.
So it's like a cultural divide in that time in Scotland. So
Right
they're the Tom Christie folks, not the Highlanders.
And we meet his two kids,
Yes.
Alan and Malva.
Malva. M-A-L-V-A.
Malva.
Malva Christie.
Malva.
Malva, we saw frequently pre-season because she's been in a lot of the promotions. She is the one that looks distractingly like Jenny.
Yeah.
She does.
Oh.
Yeah, she does.
She really does.
She bad news? This sounds like bad news.
Alan.
I have so many questions.
Alan is the one who looks like he's definitely going to get his ass kicked. Alan we need the right word for it. So there's doom face where you're too pretty to live. A well-established concept.
Yeah.
Doom face. There's maid face where you're just born to wear a very particular kind of bonnet, right? The
Yes.
Leary face. Yes. But perfect for a bonnet. Which is about the actor looking good in period clothing, not about the person being like obviously born to be in a subservient position.
Sure.
Maid face is about costuming.
Bodies.
Doom face is about dying. Alan Christie has
Guilty face.
he has
Ass open face.
there's
something
no
like
Guilt
reason
boner?
why I should tell you to never speak to me again when I meet you once at a bar, but I'm definitely going to. He's got that face. He's got like
Chad face kind of thing.
No.
needs therapy face.
Ooh.
He's got
Needs therapy face. There's got to be something more concise there.
well,
That's great.
we'll wait. It's gonna come to us.
It'll come to us. But anyway, he's a shifty motherfucker.
Shifty.
You can tell. He's
Yeah.
fucking shifty.
There's
And you know
something
what?
that's not right. He's got
So
some
is
anger
Malva.
issues. He's got some issues with his dad. He is out hunting with Ian. And is weirdly, well, I guess not weirdly, very stereotypically interested in the length of his rifle.
Yes.
Whereas Ian is just like, let's hunt. And then he takes an arrow and he just goes, and then an animal dies. It's like, yes, that's hunting.
Silently.
Was hunting. And then Alan Christie says something about the fiery darts of hell. And Ian says,
Yeah.
what is this one of those? I think your father might not care for some of my traditions. Right. And Amelia wanted to share that her first thought upon seeing that scene was she went, psst, that's the fiery dart.
Oh, yeah.
It's a fiery dart of hell. Anyway.
You know
So that's
what?
Alan.
She's so right.
We also see he's got a very pretty powder horn, like a
Gunpowder horn.
like
sling.
way too fancy for him. Since they have nothing and just showed up with nothing. He's like, oh, I carved it myself. And the way he says it, you're like, no, you didn't. That comes back. Malva, on the other hand, is very pretty and seems very smart and is very interested in what Claire is doing. She seems into science. She seems like,
Oh no.
like it's too bad that she's not alive today and could benefit from some STEM, ladies in STEM.
She also there's a vibe with her that is off.
Is like
There's just something
Well,
about
the whole
her.
family, the vibe is
Exactly.
off.
Yes. So there's some kind of abuse
that's-
situation. Like you're right. We see it later a little bit.
that's the challenge of the heavy religion inside of everything they're doing, right? Where like at some point,
Yes.
whatever they're interested in or whatever they want to do or are exposed to hits up against that fucking wall, and they're like, "Fucking blasphemy! Darts
Exactly.
of hell!"
Exactly.
Yes, fiery darts. Totally.
Fiery darts.
Those are the fiery darts.
One
Yeah.
thing we learn in the little fisher town is that the reason why we haven't seen Fergus recently is because he's been working to restore the still, but he's really doing more work depleting the still.
Oh no,
He's doing a lot of tasting.
Yeah, Fergus is a drunk now.
Fergus, you've been so. When you got off that wagon, we were all on your wagon.
Ugh, it's bad.
It's bad. He is obviously really struggling. And Lauren Lyle, goddammit, she's so good.
She's so good.
She does a really good job of painting Marsley's reaction to Fergus being a piece of shit right now, because she is concerned, but she is tired and she is annoyed, and she has obviously been concerned for a long time and is running out of fucks.
Yeah.
She's great.
Fuck. Oh no. Well,
so
that's
now
gonna
we know
develop.
we have that to look forward to.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the trailer makes so much more sense now. If Fergus is a fucking drunk. Oh my god. Okay.
It does come back pretty hard too.
Yeah.
They have a big dinner party at the Ridge for all the people that Tom Christie brought with him, and then this is where the great pilotsy happens. That's so amazing. Yeah. Lizzie is waiting on the table and her hair is down. Like, oh, do you want to do the Christie people through line first or the other through line first?
I mean, I think we're running short on time, so I was thinking we should focus on new characters. But yes, we see Lizzie in her pilotsy, and she looks radiant.
Her hair is
suspiciously
down?
radiant.
Her hair is down and she is looking really good.
She looks fly.
Oh, that's not good though. That's not good.
We also meet a character who was recently widowed. Her name is Amy McDonnell. Now I'm concerned I have her last name wrong. This is a book character. Her son, Aiden, and she has a baby. She just very recently lost her husband, and Roger and Brianna sort of decide that they're gonna help her specifically. So they're gonna help build her cabin. She's very grateful.
Oh yeah, she's gonna get windows.
Yeah, at least one.
But you can see sort of the beginning of a dynamic there. She's one of the fisher folk. Her husband is dead. She's on her own. Roger and Brianna decide that they're going to step in and help.
Yeah.
Amy is a character from the books, who is long-running character from the books.
Okay. And then Browntown Ass Clown shows up, and we find out that, Lionel Brown from Brownsville shows up, and we find out that that shifty-ass Alan Christie did steal that powder horn.
Yeah, this show does a good job in this episode of sort of ratcheting up the tension. You can tell that the Brownsville shit is just like bad and getting worse. It's not the thing that's happening, but it's constantly happening.
It's
other things are happening, and it affects literally every conversation that any of them have in the entire episode. The undercurrent is like, Roger seems kind of fucked up.
Yeah,
like,
everybody seems fucked up.
Yeah.
Everybody is having their issues and kind of like dealing with
all
it in different
tied
ways.
to this incredibly traumatic thing that happened.
You mean Claire's kidnapping?
Yes. And assault. Yeah.
There's a line in this scene that Tom Christie says to his son where he says, "Do you want to end up like your mother?" And I'm like, tell me more about these kids' mother. She's obviously not with us anymore.
You'll find out.
I can't wait. It was, and the actor, that guy is so good.
He's so good.
Immediately a little seed is planted right there, and you're like, what is up with their mother? I'm like, Lauren Lyle is so good.
She's so good.
Jamie decides he's going to be the Indian agent because if he doesn't do it, the guy had asked Lionel Brown to do it, and he's like, I can't let Lionel Brown do it, so I'll do it.
Yeah.
There's also, we see a sort of repeat of the incidents at the top of the episode where Jamie takes the lashes for the mentally ill person who put the tartan on the corpse. They are going to take Alan Christie away, which maybe that wouldn't be the worst thing. But they don't. And Jamie's like, well, it's my land, so we're going to see that he is punished. Your help was not needed here, Browntown, Ass Clown. Go.
Goodbye.
Go back
take
to your big tent.
hound and your frown and go give my best to the crown. I don't know.
That was good. You got there.
Thank you. I was working on it.
No, that was there.
And Tom Christie's like, no, I'll take care of it. And he grabs like a whip, like a legitimate whip. And Jamie is like, actually, no, I'm in charge here. This is my land. So nope, Tom, we will figure this out together. And by figure it out together, I mean, I'm going to take care of this right now. And he takes off his belt and tells the kid to take off his jacket, but not his shirt, and gives him like 10 lashes with a belt, which I'm guessing that still really fucking hurts.
Yeah.
But it's not a whip on bare skin, which is what Tom Christie was going to do.
Oh my God.
But of course, it's all a lot more complicated than that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
And that's where we leave things with like this except for the button on the end.
The final scene.
What's the button?
We have enough time I do have enough time to finish this part.
Give me this button.
This is important. Claire has a bad nightmare, as one would.
In which you hear a lot of clips of things that we have seen on the show before, many of which are from the Brownsville assault. But Galus is in there too. I heard Galus. And there are some other things. It's obviously like a lot of things from her past all sort of stewing together in her subconscious.
A lot of people calling her
now, Claire.
A lot of people calling her bitch. A lot of like witch talk too. So, she wakes up very disturbed from this nightmare. It's bad. Jamie's like, are you okay? And she's like, yes, I'm fine. I'm going to go make some tea. And then there's a hilarious fucking Boston Tea Party joke or a taxation joke. And she goes down to her surgery. And what does she do?
Oh, ether.
Yeah. I called it a real Claire's Michael Caine situation because of Cider House Rules.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. This is going to be a complicated season, isn't it?
My pop culture reference joke was this was not the tie-in with Little Shop of Horrors that I expected. Because I would sooner have predicted man-eating plant. Well, person dressed like a man-eating plant. Man in man-eating plant suit. Before I would have guessed that Claire starts dosing herself with ether. This isn't a spoiler. That's an invention of the show.
The ether is?
Well, not ether. Outlander didn't invent ether. And,
No.
And the book Claire does make ether. And it is a part of this storyline.
But
like
the
of
addiction,
this season.
the potential addiction.
No, Claire does not use
never
ether on
uses it.
herself in the book.
Oh, wow.
So this is an invention of the show.
This part of it is an invention of the show. And
That's
I'm
interesting.
very interested to see where they go with it. Initially, I was
too.
like, absolutely not, never. And I was like, well, no, that's the whole point of addiction, is you never fucking know.
Yeah.
So I could think that I know this character really well because I've read these books, but you never know. You never know who is going to need or feel that they need help from a place that's dangerous to them and how it might affect their lives.
Yeah.
Right.
That's going to be
everyone could be an addict. That's
a really fascinating thing for them to explore. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's going to be complicated.
Well, especially in context of, because then all of a sudden I was like, oh, well, this is interesting, because then you put it into context of the choices that Jamie is making and the choices that Tom Christie is making, and specifically the choices that Fergus is making, and what people are doing to cope with the incredible stresses that they're all facing in this. Harsh landscape. But it is bleak. I mean, it's one of the bleaker moments in the history of the show, and this is not a happy-go-lucky show.
I did have a thought that I'm hoping is not prescient. But when she goes down there after her nightmare to take a dose of ether and she passes out, there's all those little flames, and I'm like, it's going to be Claire. Claire's the one that's going to set their house on fire.
Oh, God.
That's going to be it, right?
Oh my God.
Oh
this
my
is going to be
God.
such a heavy season.
It's
Oh my
interesting
God.
because we've unexpectedly hit like a Game of Thrones point, because the show has deviated enough from the books at this point, both in things that they're skipping and things that they're adding, that it cannot possibly continue to just follow the storyline of the books,
In the books,
anymore.
right.
It's we have passed the point where you could just sort of mirror what's going on in the books without undoing a lot. They'd have to undo a lot, and I don't think they will. So but I assume a lot of book readers are going to have a similarly complicated reaction to the one that I'm having. But if I take the book reader part of my brain and like punt it out the window, it's totally justified. They 100% justify that choice. It absolutely makes sense. Thematically, it's justified. Katrina plays it really well. It's Jamie's there's an interesting shot where you see Jamie in the mirror watching her leave, and he looks so isolated, and they really, really pull it off. So the book reader in me is like, I don't know, guys, but TV critic Allison has to say the show has 100% justified what Claire is doing here.
That's awesome.
Yes, without question.
Oh my gosh.
It was very upsetting.
How painful and how wonderful. Wow. I'm interested. Well, great season for me not to watch. I can't wait to experience this through all of you. Goodness gracious.
Well, if you want to watch one, just let us know.
No, you make the decision. And, maybe at some point I'm leaving it up to you all to say this is the one you should watch because it has the perfect mix of addiction, pain, conflict, and boobs.
Well, you definitely need the boobs, for sure.
Yes, please.
I mean, why else tune in?
Pandemic's been a little bit of a lonely place, everybody.
Let's do some scales.
Oh, yeah. God, it's been a while.
It's been a while. So, let's start with the costumes. On a scale from, let's say, a community theater production of
it's always the best.
Rent and Sesame Street recreates Rent. I don't know why I went with these things.
Sesame Street would
No, these are bad scales.
No. I think I can do it. I can do it.
Okay.
It's gotta be. It is a community theater production of Rent, but it's like a really good community theater. Like I would say regional theater. Like a revival tour going to regional theaters. So it's not quite as amateur and shitty, but it's also not Broadway. Like we don't see a lot of fancy bling in this episode. We just don't. Jamie's leather coat is boss though.
Choice, yeah.
Ooh.
His leather duster. Dude, Janine.
I'm adding that to my fantasy list of things I'm going to wear at some point. Leather duster and those fucking boots.
His wig is so much better. And even the wig in the flashback at the beginning of the episode to Ardsmuir Prison, I was like, where was this wig 5 years ago?
The wigs are way better. I had some little tiny issues with the flashback, but I think I figured out that Sam Heughan has improved leaps and bounds as an actor over these 5 seasons. And he's also a better physical actor, but he seems to have something in common with Jamie in that he doesn't really seem to be capable of conveying physical weakness. Like he just was still so hale and hearty. You know what I mean? He didn't seem... The acting, like you can tell his spirit is diminished, right? And then Sam Heughan does a really good job of showing that as Jamie decides to sort of assume this responsibility and form this lodge, that he has sort of found a purpose in this terrible situation that he's in. And then all of a sudden the body language doesn't matter. Then it's Jamie. But it's like Sam Heughan is playing this diminished person and his shoulders are not cooperating.
Not diminished. No. Not even a skosh diminished are those shoulders.
I mean, he does a really, really nice job.
You know who else is incredibly handsome in this episode, even though he's fucking up left and right, is Caesar Danboy.
Ooh,
dude.
Damn, boy.
He is really a handsome person.
He is very good. Thank you, sir.
Who's Danboy again?
Fergus.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so mine is going to be... the scene in the Muppet movie where they stop so that Kermit and Miss Piggy can have a date and Steve Martin is their waiter. Where it's like...
finest.
Totally. It's not the show stopping, like, life's a real movie, make your own ending, It's not that. It's not flashy. It's not Camilla performing her circus act with Gonzo. But it's also not moving right along, right? It's like they've stepped it up a little. Okay, boning scale. From, let's say, Sweeney Todd. The coat made me think of it. To, Ooh, like a Merchant Ivory situation. Like refined but still horny.
Yeah. I was going to say Bridgerton, but Bridgerton is far too horny.
Bridgerton's way too horny. Actually, you know what? No, because it's the end of the scale. Yeah, Bridgerton,
Because
fine.
then it might fall in that Merchant Ivory area.
Yeah, it's very Merchant. Yeah, that's a great adjustment. Yes. So our mutual response can be Merchant Ivory. We're not in Bridgerton.
No.
But it's hot. It's brief.
It is.
But
It's
hot.
brief and hot. Did you notice that they kind of kept the blanket bunched up on her side? And all you saw was like, you know what that is? Baby bump.
Hide in the bump.
I think it's the first time we're watching them hide it.
Bump it. The bump hiding.
So Janine will be on bump watch this entire time, and every time we see some well-placed basket or clump of sheets, we're gonna talk
Baby
about.
bump. It's gonna be, hey, that basket of berries. They must have just done laundry and hiding the baby bump.
She had. Yeah.
If you
And
see
hiding the baby.
Claire holding a basket of berries, one of two things is going on. Either they are hiding her baby bump, or they were just doing laundry on the ridge and she had to get the fuck out of there. Porque no los dos. Yeah, okay. Final scale. Getting up to get a beverage. It's a long episode, but
I
it's a
did
good
not.
episode.
Yeah,
I also
I did
did
not.
not. Maybe this one doesn't need to be a scale. It's just, did you feel the need to get up and get a beverage? I didn't. I was legitimately riveted. I was sort of expecting to be a little more distracted than I was because premieres are so often about table setting, but it really moved. They're in like act 4 of 5. It's like, all right.
Me too. Around like 50 minutes or so, I was like,
Yeah. But
come
it
on.
wasn't that any of the storylines weren't working. It was
True.
just that there was like one too many. If they had punted one little tiny something to the next episode, it would have been. It's one of my favorite kinds of great episodes of TV because it's not flashy and it's not like incredibly memorable even. It's just really well made. Like front to back, checks does what it's supposed to do. It's engaging the whole way through. There's good balance. It's a really well made episode. Not a
Agreed.
favorite, not particularly daring, but like well done, which is good. That's competence is underrated.
Agree.
Yeah.
And that is a competent episode of television. That is not a dig. That's good. There's a lot
No,
of fucking
I very much enjoyed
incompetent
it.
TV out there.
I enjoyed it.
Janine, do you have questions? Now that you're back in the role of the audience?
No. I don't. I have many questions, but it's mostly around like how are we going to see these characters who are in a low point and it's only going to get worse? Like how are they going to develop? I'm curious. That sounds like a very interesting season of television. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's fascinating.
Very
to me.
curious about where they're going to go next.
Yeah.
It's that gif of RuPaul with the opera glasses. I can't wait to see what happens next. Yeah. And you know who else can't wait to see what happens next? Our wonderful listeners. Thank you so
Great
much
segue.
for coming back with us. By the way, if this happens to be your first episode of the Drunkcast, normally at the beginning of the season, we would probably take some time to explain some nicknames and shit. I've gotten some messages recently from new listeners who are like, what the fuck does this mean? And we're going to tell
Strap
you.
in. Jesus.
Julie and I will make time sometime in the next couple weeks to do like a little bitty, by the way, here's your vocabulary. Because we're just never going to stop saying things that you don't know what they are. But we'll try to explain some of them. We'll explain anyway, Patty, and we'll talk about who coined face and pamplemousse are, and we'll do all that. And also welcome and thank you for listening. We want to thank all of you. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Podlandercast. You can find us on Instagram at Podlandercast and at Podlander Presents. You can also find out about our other podcast, Sickburn Jane, at Sickburn Jane. You can find Twitter, Podlander Presents. I don't know. All of those things. And you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/PodlanderCast, where you can support the show, get access to early episodes, bonus episodes. We're gonna figure out some way of crowdcasting something, etc., etc. We want to thank all of our patrons who make it possible for us to do this, but especially the following wonderful folks. Are we ready? Watermelon. Okay.
Rutabaga.
All right. BG, Just Bree, Maddie Perkins, Sazanac, Lisa Brienne, Julia Gulia, Kathleen Martennant, Lauren Tennant, Kelsey Kemp, Emily Day, Betsy English, Caitlin Reddick, Jen Collins, Ashley Takis, and Kristen Freckled, Fury, Laura Combe, Amelia Bazell, Liz and Tinkerbell, Stella Welch, Tori Halligan, Claire Feeney, Rochelle Lefevre, Heather Robbins, Jerry Hurdle, Emily Carlson, Amy Gustafson, Rachel Townsend, Kelly Mazzella, Chantel Salters, Mary the Falling Statue, Tara Lucchino, Viv Pickles, a.k.a. Laura, Mary of the Grapefruit, Jenna Bukowski, Ann Gibson, Ruth McCormick, Kara Marlowe, Trish McCrary, Julie DeToy, Jen Lynn, Kelly Bond, Amanda and Kiki. The Wise. Thank you so much for making it possible for us to do this inane bullshit. We love it, and we love you, and we're very glad that Withoutlander is over. I will not say the other word.
No.
It's fine. I'm hydrated.
All right, we'll be back next week to talk about I don't know
More addiction.
Episode
stages of
2,
recovery?
House burning down.
in,
House
in
burns
episode
down while church goes up.
in episode 2 they adopt a rabbit.
Bye. Bye.
Boy.